Hello and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. Tessa here with Saffron. Nutmeg is out here too. You'll probably see him through parts of this video. She is extremely squirmy. She's excited to be outside. I haven't let her out here in a few days because she was naughty and was looking a little too close at the fence, but if she can be supervised, she's pretty good out here for the most part. So I figured I would keep her out here today for some chores. I feel like I've gotten behind on the chores, and not just for not being here. I mean, I wasn't here for half of May, but we've gotten a lot of storms recently and there has been some damage, and I've been looking for an opportunity to plant out some of the plants that I still have on my seedling table. So this is just gonna be a chores vlog with the cats, of course, and maybe just a little bit of a look around the garden, some harvesting that needs to happen, all of the things. So I figured I would take you all along for the ride today. So let's get started. First up, Nutmeg and I have a couple of peppers that we need to get in the ground. These are the last of the ones my mom sent me from Pennsylvania, and I have been slowly acclimating them. These were just taking a little bit longer to get acclimated. They had to spend more time inside because of the shock that they went into just being in the mail when it was really hot out. Luckily, it's a little bit cooler this week and it is the evening, so I feel better about planting them. I have these stakes that I had in the ground just because I wanted to map out where I was planting each of the peppers. These are shishitos, so in this bed will be a total of 9 plants. I have 7 in the ground already, and I have grass from my yard coming up, which is always a joy. But I just want to get these 2 in the ground, and the rest, I have a couple other peppers too from the last that I bought in Pennsylvania. Just get them in the ground, get some fertilizer before it gets too late. I know being in June, it is kind of on the verge of being too late, but I think because these peppers are pretty close to this fence where I get the first shade in the evening, it's going to be all right. These 2 should be pretty easy to put in the ground. They have been acclimating on the seedling table for about a week or so, and they've proven to be pretty hardy once I got them outside. So I'll just get them really quickly into the ground and then pull some fertilizer to put on top and get all of the mulch back on top. This really helps with our watering in the summer, just being able to have that layer so that things don't dry out quite as quickly. The one shishito plant here is looking a little bald on the bottom. It lost a lot of leaves when I first got it, but I think it's doing much better now, and it should get back to its original self once it has a lot more room to grow. That's why I didn't really want to acclimate these for too long, just because this is the largest pot that any of them were in, and it's just, I know it's going to start running out of space to grow if I keep it in here too long. So I think the rest of its growing pains will just have to happen out here, and I think it'll be fine. I put that one in last week and it's doing okay. The leaf cutter bees have been getting to it because they like all of my newly planted peppers, but I think they will leave it alone soon enough. So just a generous helping of fertilizer. I'll water these in tonight and they'll be good to go. The next thing that's due in my garden is some pruning. This parsley here, many other herbs, and my asparagus that's just out of frame are all bolting or getting scraggly and just need a little bit of a haircut. I'm trying to preserve both of my parsley plants for as long as I can. It is proven to be quite difficult, but I think I've been able to keep harvesting parsley for just a little bit longer just by pruning some of the bolting ends. This one just has a couple right now. I do come out here probably once a week and trim this up just so I can see where it's bolting and hopefully get some more leafy growth out of it. I am just delaying the inevitable, but I don't know. I think it's worth it. I am also going to prune some of the dead growth. This might also help it keep producing more leafy growth for just a little bit longer, not too long. By mid-July, maybe early August if I'm lucky, this plant will be completely bolted and probably dead. So I did have one of these here last year. It did great in the winter in Texas, but it really does not stand up to the heat, as well as some other crops do. And of course, everything that was trimmed up goes right into the compost pile. One thing I like to do periodically while I am out here in the garden is trim up my tomato plants, just because there can be some signs of disease and generally like a lot of snapped branches. I don't know why these aren't cutting very well today, but there are leaves like this one that are showing some signs of disease. So I try to trace them back. This I think is right at the snap, honestly. So that'll either fall down on its own or might have to wait. There we go. I got it. Sometimes I'll let them fall out on their own, but this is a pretty telltale sign of just some minor disease on your tomato plant. So I like to go through, get them all trimmed up. Because of all the thunderstorms and tornadoes that we've had, there are a lot of snapped branches, like this one here. So I'll just remove them. This one came off on its own. Try to be careful not to disturb anything else, but this was not ever going to make it. So I'll save that for the compost pile, and that just clears up space for more of the tomatoes in here. I'll go through every few days or a week, honestly, as much as I remember, trim them up as best as I can. Unfortunately, because of all the snap branches due to the storms, this plant is not as straight and slender as I would like it to be. It ended up being a lot more bushy. I think the second one here, the main stem broke, so they're just all over the place. But I'm gonna let these two tomato plants here go wild for the most part, as long as I can trim off all of those diseased leaves throughout the summer and let the tomatoes grow underneath. Disease like this can spread really fast, especially if you have a lot of tomato leaves in close proximity and that are touching. So all of this will get removed and taken to the compost pile, and that will hopefully save the plant from more rapid spreading. Eventually, disease is going to happen no matter what on tomatoes here. It's just the nature of growing them, but as long as you can keep it at bay for a little while, you should be able to get your frequent harvest of tomatoes throughout the season. Brief intermission because my babies are being extra cute. It's a really nice evening. I think Saffron agrees. Another unfortunate thing that these storms have done is that they have taken my climbing plants and knocked some of them off of the trellises. So I'd like to go fix them, starting with the beans. Now these are mostly okay. I did have some ripped up leaves over here, but I do have a few, like this one, which is hard to see because it's in the back, that just need a little bit of help. So I'll weave it through here and get it very carefully. Though these vines are a lot hardier than, say, my watermelons, those I have to be very careful if I have them climbing. Though this year I'm trying to not have them climb if at all possible. So that one is fixed back on the trellis. That was the main one that I had noticed. Let me see, there might be one on the other side. This one is just starting to climb, so I'm going to help it out a little bit by putting it through just one or two. That way we'll get it started, get some of the leaves through, because that will help when it's windy. But other than that, this section looks really good, and we can move on to the cucumbers. The cucumbers need a little bit more help from me here. So I do have too many plants in here. I do recognize that, but I am going to slowly help them. And their little feelers, that is going to be the best way for things like cucumbers and watermelons or squash to get onto their trellis. Not only putting them through the trellis, but also making sure that their feelers attach to something. So this one isn't tall enough to be attached yet, but it has a really long feeler. So I'm going to find a metal part of my trellis and make sure that the feeler gets attached to it. That way, no matter how strong the wind blows, it will be attached unless we have another crazy tornado or something. But I don't foresee that, fingers crossed, because that last tornado was scary. But that is attached. I also have just some extra vines going through, I guess. Secondary vines. No, that one's too short. I think this is a main vine to something. It also becomes problematic when it starts to attach to itself. But I'm just gonna tuck that one back under and it should be okay. This is a secondary vine. I will put it through. This one looks like it is attaching really nicely because of that feeler. And I think there's one here that's just being very problematic. I've been trying to attach this one for a little while now. I don't want to have to get out the, I guess, twist ties, you could call them, but if this one doesn't start attaching soon, I'm going to have to do that because it's getting a little too tall to not be attached to anything. So those are the main ones that are problems. This one is still a little short, and of course I just knocked that off. Believe it or not, I actually have tomatoes in here somehow. So I'm trying to make sure they get a little bit more sunlight than what they're currently getting. I might have to move them because I didn't anticipate this many cucumbers out here, but like I said, just keeping them attached if you can. Otherwise they'll start to trail down, which is totally fine if you're into that. I feel like it starts to get a little bit messy and I have other plants down here that I want to grow. So attaching them as much as possible will be the best for the cucumbers and for the plant. Another brief intermission from my child of the corn. She loves hanging out in here so she can spy on all of the birds. There she goes. Please don't roll over on my plants. There are eggplants in there somewhere, sweetheart. She is so happy to roll around in the dirt. Does anyone else have a cat that does this outside? Because I've never seen a cat do it quite like Saffron, and this is the first time I've caught it on camera, but she's having a great time at least. She's really enjoying it. She just gets so dirty, and I don't understand why she needs to do this. The next thing that I need to do out here is harvest some crops, and I'm going to start with the carrots right behind me. I have a lot of extras right now of things like carrots, herbs, beets that I'm just not using. So I have my husband reach out to his coworkers, and a few of them said that they wanted some things. So I'm going to harvest for them. If I see anything that I need to bring inside for myself, I'll do that as well. But I have a list with me of things I need to harvest, and carrots is the top one that I have way too much of. So we're going to be giving out a few generous helpings of carrots right now, just because I have way too many. Carrots are looking really good, so I'm going to give them a quick rinse before I bag them up and bring them inside. There's a couple of weird ones, but they mostly look really good. Loving the color, and this is the perfect size to me, honestly, so we'll move on to the next thing. I had a couple of people say that they wanted beets, so I figured I would pick a couple. That is a really good size. I don't want to give them ones that are too big. This one also looking a little funky, but I feel like it'll work. Oh gosh, this one's way too small, but that's fine. I think there's a couple in here that look to be a good size. I don't know. How many beets is enough to give to one person? Okay, these all came out together, so they're done. Different sizes here, different colors. This one is too small, and these two are too big. Those are the only beets that are left, so I think we will leave it at that and add these to the carrots. Another quick rinse for those because they were pretty dirty, and there might have been a couple ants on them because I think I got an ant bite on my hand, but it's okay. Next I have jalapenos and chives, which are luckily right next to each other. So I have a few jalapenos that I think are ready enough to use. I've got a couple on this plant and a couple on this one. I think I'll just pick the biggest one here. I had a really big one that I actually picked this morning that I'm gonna keep for myself just because it looks extra nice. So I think 3 jalapenos will be enough there. And then for the chives, the great thing about this plant is that it is a perennial here and you can keep it growing, cut and come again, as long as you leave a few inches of green when you make your cuts. So I'm going to take some cuts from all over the plant, but that is a pretty nice bunch of the chives, so I think that will work. I also had a couple requests for basil, which I think is great because actively pruning this plant is a great way to give it some shape. Also, it is trying to bolt already, which is insane because we are in June and we still have quite a few months of summer left. So I will be pruning off the tops. It will grow from these nodes here and just expand and get more bushy, which is what I really want. So I will prune off that as well. You can actually see this has started growing from both sides. So that is going to really take off with the pruning. It'll have a lot more shape and be a lot more bushy versus something that's really tall and skinny. That's not what you typically want from basil. So keeping it nice and shaped will keep me coming again and again to get more from it throughout the summer. I was just about to pull some purple sage when I noticed this cutie over here. This is the black swallowtail caterpillar. It is having a tough time focusing, but maybe. But he's super cute. He's a little mad at me right now. I am just starting to see them come in for the season, so I'm not going to disturb him too much more, but oh gosh, that's focusing really well. He's just so cute. I can't deal with it. I love seeing them in the garden every year, and I've planted a lot of herbs that they like, so I typically get quite a few of them. So I've got my basket of goodies. This has the jalapenos and all of the herbs in it. I got the beets and the carrots, and all I have left to do is just bag them up. I have 3 different coworkers of my husband's that wanted things, so I'm just going to start with the carrots. There were two that wanted carrots. So I am going to take the tops off just because it's easier for my husband to transport them. I'll just take off all of the tops. It is easier sometimes to just take them off one by one. And then I will divide the carrots up in half. And all of these carrot tops will go into the compost. There are a couple of carrots too. I like to go through it that just don't look edible. I'm at the part of the season where the carrots are starting to bolt. So this is an example. This one just never grew very thick. It's bolting. That one's going to be woody or taste terrible. I do have some that are also just really weird looking, which is fun. So I will include those, but for the most part, they should be okay. There might be a couple that end up being woody that I just can't tell from looking at them on the outside, and hopefully they won't get mad. I've had nothing but good things said to me about the produce that I give away, so I think people like it. I think it goes over well. I mean, it's free, so, and these carrots for me are free at this point. I have not planted a carrot in 2 years, and you guys saw how crazy that bed was because I just let carrots flower and then they grow all over my yard. So I just give them away. You can only eat so many carrots in a week. Like, I try to incorporate them into as many meals as possible. When we have friends over, I make veggie trays with them. I've not bought a carrot in 2 years, so that also just tells you how prolific they are. So there are pros and cons to having free carrots, but luckily we are able to share and give them away. And it all just works out. This one got broken, so I'll probably just bring that one inside. I'll put it back here with nutmeg for now. And this is pretty much what I ended up with. I will split it in half. There are just little bits of carrots all over the place. Put it in the bags. Unfortunately, I don't have a table out here anymore. Otherwise, I would be doing all of this at a table, but my dog destroyed it, so I just have what I have. So carrots are done. I feel like those are pretty even for the most part. Next is going to be the beets. I only have 2 golden ones, so I will put 1 in each bag. Oh, I need a 3rd bag actually, so I'll just put these off to the side and get a bag when I go inside. So they're both very different, unfortunately. Only 2 people wanted beets, and one of the people that wanted beets also wanted carrots. So I'll just try to split the beets in half as best as I can and make sure the person that gets the small golden beet gets some big beets. These are perfectly sized beets, by the way. Like, these are very cute. I just don't have the energy to be eating that many beets anymore, and my husband doesn't like them at all. So that's just what that is. And I will be throwing these beets into one of the bags of carrots. I am gonna leave the greens on these just because some people like to eat the greens. So I will leave that up to whoever takes them. I know you can also technically eat carrot tops, but like typically people just make pesto out of them, and that's not as popular of a thing. So I typically take them off unless someone requests me to leave it on. But this is our bag of beets and carrots, so that is very exciting. Next is going to be the herbs. First one's going to have basil, thyme, and rosemary. I have all 3 of them wanted some sort of herb, so I have some string to put them together, and I have all of my herbs here. I'm going to use some string to tie them together just to keep them nice and compact. I think it looks super cute too. I feel like I'm living out my little farmer's market stand dream whenever I give produce away, just because I can make it look all cute and put it in a bag, wash off the carrots and the beets and any other root veggies. I don't know, I just think it would be so nice to have like a little stand one day. Maybe I'm just romanticizing it, but I think it could be a lot of fun. The rosemary also is insane right now, so I cannot give this away fast enough. I thought at this point in the season it would be the basil that would be giving me the most problems, but no, it's the rosemary. So one quick tie, keep it tight, and those are the herbs. That one's going in with the carrots and the beets. So this bag is complete. Very happy about that. The one with just the carrots had a bunch of different herbs, so didn't really specify what she wanted. So I'm taking the liberty to just give her a bunch of different herbs that I picked out. I think I picked out some good ones. I picked out dill, thyme, rosemary, basil, purple sage, chives. Yeah, all of it. I think it makes a beautiful bouquet. I have seen people putting herbs into bouquets sometimes, and I think it's really pretty, though typically I like to just eat herbs. But it looks pretty, you know. Maybe if your herbs are flowering and they're not at their most edible state, that'd be cool. I think nasturtiums also look really good in a bouquet. I've seen that become a more popular trend. People don't like eating them as much as some of the other herbs. They're more of like a fancy 5-star restaurant type of garnish, I feel like. Though they are edible, like anybody can grow it and eat it. It's not expensive to grow. It doesn't grow well here at all, but oh gosh, that's very cute. I love that. Okay, that's adorable, though the basil fell out. They have shorter stems, so I might have more trouble keeping that in there, but okay. That is all together, and that's going in the bag with just the carrots. So I'll add that, and those 2 bags are complete. So everything else is going with the jalapenos, and that's just going to be it. Before we wrap up, we've got to do a couple things, like add the carrot tops to the compost, turn off the water, and clean up the materials that I had outside so I don't forget them and they just blow away in the wind. Well, we are done out here, and Saffron has some thoughts about going inside. I think she knows, but it's getting dark out. Like, we can't be out here too much longer. We got a lot done today, though. I feel like we were very productive, got a lot of things harvested that needed that, things that needed a prune. Honestly, I feel like if you chop your herbs frequently, they just grow back faster, which is great. Honestly, it's more for me, more to share, and I love sharing. It's one of my favorite parts about growing my own food, is being able to share it with other people. But if you like this video, make sure to give Saffron and I here a thumbs up down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here on the channel. Thank you again for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.